I came home from gathering herbs on the mountain, only to find my older sister, who was supposed to be in the palace. The Empress, stripped of her limbs and hung upside down right at our front door. The courtyard was littered with dead bodies. Only my mother was left, lying in a pool of her own blood among the mountain of corpses. I desperately asked my mother what had happened. With her dying breath, she told me, "The new royal consort Lu wanted to watch your sister dance on burning coals." When she refused, the emperor flew into a rage and slaughtered her. Afraid we would seek revenge, he didn't just wipe out our entire Su family. He even slaughtered your father and the 100,000 soldiers of the Su army, the very people who helped him take the throne. Luo Shuang, you have to run. Flee before the emperor finds you. Run as far as you can. Change your name, and just survive. I shook my head. No, I will get my revenge. Mother looked at me with sheer despair. The emperor has an army of 1,000,000 men now. Not even your father could defeat him. I gently blew a whistle. In an instant, countless venomous snakes and scorpions slithered toward me from every direction. As the swarms of deadly creatures flooded the ground, they bowed at my feet, completely still, just like loyal servants. My mother's weak eyes suddenly went wide, her entire body trembling in shock. But a second later, she looked up at me with a knowing, peaceful smile. It was as if she finally understood. Back when we found you in the mystic lands of Miao, I always knew you were extraordinarily special. And I was right. As soon as she said those words, she breathed her last. But the gentle smile remained on her lips. I knew she had passed away in peace. I gently stroked the messy hair from my mother's forehead, just like she did when she first met me, using her soft, clean hands to wipe the dark mud from my dirty face. "Little one, would you like to come home with me?" Back then, her smile was exactly the same as it is now. So warm and beautiful. Without even thinking, I nodded. I followed her out of the Miao territory and entered the Su family estate. The Su family was a prestigious military clan, heavily respected and renowned. Their rules were incredibly strict. So, when my mother returned from her long journey, and suddenly brought a random child like me back home, it sparked a lot of nasty gossip. Could it be her illegitimate daughter? Is she finally bringing her home after all this time? General Su is highly respected. He cares about his reputation more than anything. Madame Su has definitely crossed the line this time. Some stray kid from nowhere doesn't deserve to step foot into the Su family. The general will never allow this. Exactly, General Su commands 100,000 troops. He's a hero of the borders. The thing he protects most in this life is the Su family's honor. That day, he stood tall in the main hall, watching as my mother held my hand and walked in. His brows furrowed slightly, and his gaze lingered on me for the longest time. Just when all the servants in the manor thought he was going to throw me out on the streets. His face softened with pure heartache, and his eyes welled up with tears. Such a sweet little girl. How did you get so terribly skinny? On that very day, the battle-hardened General Su did something completely unprecedented. He cooked a meal himself. He made a whole table of my favorite childhood dishes. Watching me eagerly wolf down the food, the strict and disciplined general beamed with absolute joy. From now on, you are my daughter, Su Zhanshan's pride and joy. If anyone ever dares to bully you, I'll tear them apart. And just like that, I became a daughter of the Su family. I was treated exactly the same as my legitimate older sister in every way. My sister never had a single complaint about this. Instead, she fiercely protected me at every turn. Whenever the other noble kids teased me for being a stray, she was always the first to step right in front of me. She would declare, loud and clear, Luo Shuang is not a stray. She's my little sister, even though my big sister was only 3 months older than me. She got into countless scuffles and brawls just for me, even if father scolded her for disgracing the Su family name. She would just stick her neck out and stubbornly refuse to apologize. How is our reputation more important than my sister? She'd argue. Father would just chuckle at that. You silly child. Protecting your little sister is our job as your parents. You don't need to go around getting yourself beaten black and blue. Father was a man of his word. He made sure that everyone who had mocked me completely disappeared from the capital by the very next day. Back then, my sister would hook her arm through mine, beaming with pride. With her eyes sparkling, she'd say, Luo Shuang, our father is just amazing. He protects our country and keeps the people safe. He's never lost a single battle. And it was true. Father spent his entire life fighting at war. He never let the enemy break our lines, and he never let the great Liang Empire lose an inch of land. He never once gave the people a reason to panic. He was our beloved great general, the protector of the nation. The great hero praised by absolutely everyone. He managed to protect everyone else. But he couldn't protect himself. He didn't meet his end on a glorious battlefield. He was murdered right inside his own home. Stabbed 99 times, every single cut deep to the bone. Those very hands that had shielded our nation and its people were still gripping his sword, even as they were brutally chopped off. Tossed aside in a corner like useless garbage, I gently picked up Father's hands and pieced them back onto his arms. Then, using my sleeve, I carefully wiped away the blood from his face. His eyes were still wide open, staring fixedly right at the doorway. Hanging there was the mutilated body of my older sister. My sister, the Empress of Great Liang. Father's most precious and treasured daughter. My sweet sister, who had always been so terrified of pain since we were little. Whenever she scraped her knee back then, she would cry for hours. But now, they had hacked off all 4 of her limbs. It must have hurt her so much. And for our parents to witness such a sight, how agonizing it must have been for them. I walked over to the doorway and carefully untied my sister's body, bringing her down. Then, I found an old handcart and gently laid the bodies of my parents and my sister onto it. I cleared away the venomous bugs swarming the ground and slowly pushed the 3 of them down the long streets of the capital. The people lining the roads saw me and quickly stepped aside, wiping their tears and sighing in pity. What a terrible tragedy, they murmured. The Su family was fiercely loyal, yet they ended up like this. Well, Consort Lu was the emperor's favorite, after all. Empress Su was so gentle and virtuous her whole life. How could she ever compete with that woman? The emperor even wiped out all 100,000 soldiers of the Su army. He clearly wanted to tear them out by the roots. The second miss barely managed to survive the slaughter. Yet here she is, showing her face out in the open like this. Isn't she just asking for death? The Su family treated her so well. Now that their entire bloodline has been executed, maybe the second miss just doesn't want to live anymore, either. Everyone stared at me, clicking their tongues and shaking their heads. They looked at me as if I were already a dead woman walking. Just then, a 5-year-old child stepped forward, holding a small bouquet of flowers. Miss, today is General Su's birthday. These flowers are for him. My steps faltered, and the tears that I had held back for so long. It finally came down. That's right, today is my father's birthday. I headed out early this morning, hoping to find a special herb for him. After a lifetime on the battlefield, his body was riddled with deep-rooted ailments. Whenever the seasons changed, he'd be in agonizing pain, unable to sleep through the night. I kept thinking, once I finally found that herb, and cured my father's illness, I'd make him resign from his post, so he could finally enjoy his twilight years. Father agreed to it. Mother was overjoyed, too. She'd say, your sister has been waiting for the day your father can rest. Today, your sister is coming to celebrate his birthday. Once she arrives, and hears this wonderful news, she's going to be so thrilled. But, they never got to see my sister celebrate his birthday. Instead, they received her corpse, and the slaughter of our entire clan. The herb I scaled the cliffs to find was completely useless now. I gently took the flower from the child's hand, whispered my thanks, and then, taking my father, my mother, and my sister, I buried the 3 of them side by side. I knelt down, and bowed my head 3 times. Father, mother, sister, just wait for me. I'm going to take that bastard emperor's head, and bring it back as an offering for your graves. I took the medicinal herb I had picked from the cliff, laid it gently at my father's grave, and turned to walk straight toward the imperial palace. The captain of the royal guard saw me. He froze for a second, then let out a scoff. Well, if it isn't the little bastard the Su family dragged in from the streets. You're actually still alive? I recognized this captain. Whenever my father brought me to the palace to visit my sister, he used to bow and scrape before me, constantly calling me the esteemed second lady. I shot him a cold glare, and said nothing. The captain flew into a humiliated rage. A filthy stray thinks she can ignore me? Then don't blame me when I take your head to the emperor for a reward. He suddenly drew his blade and lunged at me. I stood perfectly still, but a venomous snake darted out from the shadows, sinking its fangs viciously into his sword hand. The guard let out a blood-curdling scream. Instantly, blood poured from his eyes, nose and mouth, and he dropped dead on the spot. A massive, seething horde of centipedes, snakes, and scorpions began swarming in from all directions, merging behind me into a dark, endless river of venomous creatures. Seeing this horrifying sight, the rest of the guards were scared out of their wits. They stumbled and crawled in a panic toward the palace, screaming, "Monster!" Not a single person dared to stop me now. I walked completely unopposed straight into the golden throne hall. Inside the grand hall, the emperor sat high upon his dragon throne. Snuggled up against him was a seductively dressed woman. That was noble consort Lu, the very same woman who forced my sister to dance barefoot on burning coals. The civil and military officials stood trembling on both sides of the hall. 3,000 imperial guards stood at the very front with their blades drawn, glaring at me with murderous intent. When the emperor saw me, his eyes narrowed. "Su Luoshuang, I thought you had run away. I was just about to issue a nationwide warrant for your arrest." As he spoke, he glanced behind me. A look of pure contempt flashed in his eyes. "What, you brought these pathetic little pests to perform some tricks and beg for my mercy?" The emperor stared down at me from his high and mighty perch. His ruthless, arrogant demeanor was a complete world apart from the boy who once knelt, freezing at my family's doorstep. Back then, he was nothing but the despised ninth prince of the palace. His birth mother had died young, and he was relentlessly bullied by everyone in the imperial court. Even getting a hot meal was a luxury for him. My sister was just too kind-hearted. Seeing him so pitiful, she often used her visits to the palace to help him out. She brought him clothes and meals. One time, his leg was broken by the other princes. It was my sister who knelt outside our father's study for a whole day and night, just to beg him to call for the best royal physician. She took care of him day and night, and managed to save his leg. As time went on, the two of them fell deeply in love. They made a lifelong promise to each other. Later on, when the late emperor fell gravely ill, the princes fought ruthlessly for the throne, shedding rivers of blood. Knowing full well that my father commanded 100,000 troops of the Su family army, he knelt right outside our gates. He begged my father to send troops to his aid. My father looked at him, with an expression more solemn than ever before. "Give me a reason to help you." He pointed to the heavens and swore, "I promise I will never betray a Yan in this life. The moment I ascend the throne, I will make her my empress. And I will protect the Su family for the rest of my life." My father believed him. He led the entire Su family army out in full force, helping him crush the rebellion. They wiped out the other princes, and secured the throne for him. He kept his word, too. The moment he took the throne, he crowned my sister as his empress. But now, just in the second year of his reign, for the sake of some noble consort Lu who came from out of nowhere, he severed my sister's limbs, and massacred my entire family. At this very moment, noble consort Lu was leaning into the emperor's arms, pouting playfully. "Your Majesty, didn't you say you already wiped out everyone in the Su family? How did one slip through? Do you not love me anymore? Are you purposely fooling me?" The emperor wrapped his arm around her waist, and coaxed her fondly. "My beloved, what nonsense are you saying? For you, I even destroyed the very empress who helped me conquer this empire. How could I not love you? As for this last remaining survivor of the Su family, I promise you, she will not live past today." Hearing these words, noble consort Lu smiled in satisfaction. And I smiled, too. They laughed at me for being weak and helpless, but I laughed at their sheer ignorance. I stood right in the middle of the throne room, staring straight into the emperor's eyes. I slowly spoke, "Your Majesty, how exactly did my Su family ever wrong you? For you to wipe us out so ruthlessly?" Hearing this, the emperor let out a soft chuckle, and stood up from his dragon throne. With his hands behind his back, he looked down at me with pure contempt. "Su Luoshuang, this exact question your father also asked me right before he perished. And I told him, your Su family is completely innocent, but I simply cannot tolerate your existence anymore. Over the years, your father's army of 100,000 has slaughtered far too many people for me. They know way too many secrets. Every single time I look at them, I am reminded of exactly how many corpses I had to step over to climb to the top. I cannot sleep at night, so they had to be eliminated. I understood it now. Once the hunt is over, the hounds are put down. Once the birds are gone, the bow is cast aside. Emperors have always been this way since ancient times. But, I still have to ask one thing. What about my sister? She truly loved you. She did absolutely everything in her power to help you, to save you. She never did you any wrong. When you ordered her execution, did you ever stop to think about everything she sacrificed for you? The emperor scoffed coldly. Sacrifices? This entire world belongs to me now. What use do I have for her devotion? I admit your sister saved me and helped me. But every time I looked at her, it just reminded me of how I knelt at the gates of your Su family. I am the son of heaven, the supreme ruler. How could I spend the rest of my life living in that humiliating memory? Only with her dead could I finally erase that pathetic past. I clenched my fists. Just because he refused to live with his own past, he slaughtered everyone who ever helped him. How absolutely pathetic. I took a deep breath. Since that is how it is, then today, I will carve out justice for my parents and my sister. At that, noble consort Lu burst into laughter, shaking with breathless amusement. What an arrogant little brat. You really think you are worthy of demanding justice from His Majesty? The royal court chimed in with sneers. Exactly, all 100,000 soldiers of your Su family have been wiped out. What kind of storm could a weak little girl like you possibly stir up? You are just a pathetic clown begging for a death wish. I wonder if the late Empress Su, seeing the little sister she protected all these years acting so stupidly, would roll over in her grave? Looking at all these people, I could not help but laugh out loud. The emperor narrowed his eyes. What are you laughing at? I stared right back at him, and said, word by word, I am laughing at you. Laughing at how death is staring you right in the face, and you do not even realize it. Hearing this, the emperor scowled. His voice went dead cold. Su Luoshuang, do you seriously think bringing a few venomous bugs here is enough to overthrow heaven? Do not forget, I am the supreme ruler. I have 3,000 imperial guards, and an army of 1,000,000 men. As for your little parlor tricks, I can burn them all to ashes with a single torch. Men, bring the torches, burn these vile pests alive. At his command, the 3,000 imperial guards ignited their torches in unison, pointing them straight at me and the swarm of vipers and scorpions behind me. The massive throne room was thick with blinding bloodlust, glowing red with the blazing firelight. But I did not flinch for a second. Who told you this was all I brought? I raised my hand in the air, and gave a gentle snap of my fingers. Instantly, the bright, clear sky violently darkened. Pitch-black clouds surged in from all directions, blocking out the sun entirely. And at that exact moment, the once perfectly silent palace began to tremble violently. The very earth shook, tearing at the foundations. Horrified, everyone threw their heads back and stared out of the hall, the blood draining from their faces. What in the world is that? A sharp-eyed minister pointed into the sky outside, letting out a scream of absolute disbelief. But nobody answered him, because every single person was frozen in shock. Just beyond the palace doors, endless swarms of birds erupted from the horizon. Wild geese, great eagles, crows, and swarms of bats. So densely packed, they blotted out the light, dragging a massive black curtain across the vast sky. They crashed down onto the roof of the golden throne hall. They swarmed the stone steps of the plaza. They covered every single dragon-carved pillar. A suffocating sea of black, swallowing up the very last ray of sunlight. And as the sky fell dark, the roaring tremors from the ground crept closer and closer. Boom, 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 the deafening thunder drew near. The thudding grew louder and louder. In the next instant, the heavy doors of the throne room were violently smashed open. Right after, a fierce tiger charged in first, closely followed by lions, black bears, wild wolves, cheetahs, wild bulls, and giant elephants. Their massive bodies were fierce and savage, and the way they glared at everyone in the room was like looking at prey they had been drooling over for a long time. Such a bizarre scene plunged the entire throne room into dead silence. The civil and military officials scrambled backward in a panic. Someone knocked over the candlestick behind them. Someone else's legs gave out, collapsing onto the floor. Others had trembling lips, pale faces, and even wet themselves on the spot from pure terror. How is this possible? Everyone was completely stunned. However, what they expected even less was that after all these beasts and birds flooded into the palace, they lined up in perfect, orderly formations right behind me. Just like soldiers waiting for my command, the 3,000 royal guards gripped their torches, watching this scene, not daring to take a single step forward. In the face of this overwhelming tide of beasts, their torches looked tiny and ridiculous. Unable to harm these vicious animals in the slightest. Your Majesty, what is going on? Noble consort Lu tightly clutched the Emperor's sleeve, her voice trembling violently. The Emperor didn't answer her. Instead, he stared fixedly at me, the contempt from just moments ago completely gone from his eyes. Surrounded and protected by all the birds and beasts, I looked straight at the Emperor expressionlessly. You just said that these things I brought with me, you could burn them all to ashes with a single fire? Faced with my questioning, the Emperor's Adam's apple bobbed, and his face turned incredibly ugly. But he was, after all, the Emperor who ruled the world. After a brief moment of shock, he quickly steadied his nerves. He suddenly yanked the sword from the waist of a nearby guard, pointed it straight at me, and shouted sternly, Su Luoshuang. Did you think bringing a few animals here would scare me? I am the ruler of this nation, commanding an army of 1,000,000 strong, stationed just outside the city. With just one word from me, they will instantly storm the palace and take you down. No matter how many birds and beasts you have, can they outnumber my 1,000,000-strong army? As his words fell, the Emperor looked at the commander of the royal guards beside him. The commander immediately understood and bolted rapidly toward the outside of the hall, intending to deliver the order and mobilize the troops. But he had barely taken 3 steps, when a massive lion from behind me lunged forward, snapping his neck in a single bite. The sickening crunch of shattering bones echoed clearly into everyone's ears. Screams instantly erupted throughout the hall. Someone fainted on the spot from sheer terror. The Emperor's sword-holding hand trembled slightly, but he still refused to back down. He glared at me, gritting out word by word. Su Luoshuang, I'll admit you do have some skills to actually make so many birds and beasts obey your commands. But if you think this is enough to get your revenge, then you are dead wrong. I have been on the throne for 2 years, surrounded by countless masters and extraordinary talents. Why would I be afraid of a little brat like you? Just as he finished speaking, an old, raspy voice suddenly rang out from outside the hall. His Majesty is absolutely right. I, for one, would love to see what kind of monster dares to stir up trouble in the imperial palace. Everyone turned to look in the direction of the voice. An old man with flowing white hair and a long white beard suddenly appeared outside the golden throne room, as if out of thin air. Dressed in dark mystic robes, he held a fly whisk in his hand. He looked exactly like a legendary, enlightened sage. Seeing him, the Emperor's face instantly lit up with joy. Imperial Advisor, you've finally come out of seclusion. The Imperial Advisor. I narrowed my eyes. I'd heard rumors that after taking the throne, the Emperor had invited a mighty sage from the deep mountains, honoring him as the Imperial Advisor. He supposedly spent years in deep meditation, completely cut off from the outside world. I never expected him to actually show up today. The advisor's piercing gaze swept across the beasts and birds covering the grounds. He frowned slightly, and then, his eyes locked onto me. Such a young girl, yet you can command a horde of beasts. You certainly have some skills. But, do you have any idea where this power of yours really comes from? I stared right back at him, not saying a single word. The advisor gave a faint smile, stepping right up to me, even with hundreds of fierce beasts glaring at him from behind my back. He wasn't afraid in the slightest. Instead, he studied me intently, and let out a laugh. Well, I'll be damned. I never thought that the little girl from the Meow clan would actually still be alive. My heart skipped a massive beat. You know me? The advisor stroked his long white beard, and gave a slow, knowing nod. I don't just know you. I also knew your birth parents. I furrowed my brow. Why the hell should I believe you? Even though I didn't know exactly who this man was, I knew he worked for the Emperor. That made him my enemy, too. There was no way I was just going to blindly trust his words. But despite my fierce doubts, the advisor didn't get angry. Instead, he gave me a very strange, meaningful look. It seems you really don't know anything, do you? Your adoptive parents sure did a damn good job keeping it a secret. I glared at him fiercely. What exactly is that supposed to mean? The advisor's face darkened, and he spoke with absolute gravity. Fine, since fate brought us together today, I might as well tell you the truth. With that, his piercing eyes locked onto mine as he asked, do you have any idea why, exactly 18 years ago today, the entire Meow clan was slaughtered overnight? Why rivers of blood and corpses covered the land? Hearing those words, my breath caught in my throat. 18 years ago today. That was the exact same day Lady Sue found me and took me in. I was only 4 years old at the time. I vaguely remember my mother hiding me inside a massive clay vat. A vat completely filled with insect eggs. Outside that vat, I could hear endless waves of brutal slaughter and agonizing screams. I wanted to get out so badly, but I couldn't move a muscle. Because my mother had placed a GU spell on me. I still remember her panicked face as she begged me, "Luo Shuang, it's too dangerous out there. You cannot leave this spot, no matter what." I waited and waited in that freezing, dark vat. I waited for so long, until the spell finally wore off and I could move. Only then did I slowly pull myself up, climbing out of the vat. But the moment I stepped outside, I realized that my once peaceful, beautiful village had been turned into an absolute bloodbath. The thick, sickening stench of fresh blood burned my nose. Panic instantly consumed me. I was so utterly terrified that my mom and dad were dead too. So I stood there in a sea of bodies, screaming out for them. But I screamed for a long, long time, and absolutely no one answered. That's when I started digging through the corpses. I looked through them, one by one, turning them over, one after another. Every single body, I looked at them all, so carefully. I saw my playmates, I saw the uncles and elders, I saw everyone I knew. But the only ones I couldn't find were my mom and dad. I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I just knew. I was so cold and so hungry. I was terrified, so scared. All I could do was huddle up in a corner and just wait, quietly. My mom always told me she would never leave me behind. I don't even know how long I waited there. The sky went dark, then light again. Light, then dark. I lost count of how many days and nights went by. All I knew was that the uncles and aunties, their bodies were getting colder and colder. Stiffer and stiffer. I was starving, but all the food in the village, it was completely soaked in blood. I couldn't eat it, so I had to go up into the hills to look for wild berries. But I didn't dare go too far. I was so scared that mom and dad would come back and wouldn't be able to find me. So I just picked berries right on the edge of the village. I kept turning my head to look back, again and again. Every time I looked back, I hoped I'd see them, standing at the village gate, waving at me to come home. But every single time, all I saw were those bodies, just lying there, completely still. One day, I came back with more berries and sat down by the village gate. I nibbled on them, bite by bite. They were so sour, they made my teeth ache. But I had to eat. Because mom said, if you don't eat anything, you'll die. And I didn't want to die. I still had to wait for mom and dad to come back. Right then, I heard footsteps. I snapped my head up, my heart just bursting with joy. Was it mom and dad? Did they finally come back? But the moment I looked up, I completely froze. It wasn't my parents at all. It was a woman I had never seen before. She was dressed in plain clothes, with her hair tied back behind her head. She looked so exhausted and anxious. Her clothes were covered in dirt, and her skirt was torn in several places from the thorns. It looked like she had walked a very, very long way. When she saw me, she froze, too. We just stayed there, staring at each other. Neither of us said a word. After what felt like a long time, she slowly crouched down, until she was right at my eye level. "Little one, why are you out here all alone?" Her voice was so light, and so gentle. It was like she was afraid of scaring me. I didn't answer her. I didn't know who she was, or if she was a bad person. Mom always warned me, never to talk to strangers when you don't know if they're good or bad. I held onto my berries tightly, completely on guard, and took a step back. She noticed what I did, and managed to squeeze out a small smile. "Don't be afraid, I'm not a bad person. I'm just passing through. I saw someone was here, so I came over to check on you. Where are your mom and dad?" Hearing her say mom and dad, my eyes stung with tears. But I held them back. I just pointed toward the village behind me. She followed my finger, and looked over. And then, her whole body went completely stiff. She saw the bodies. She saw all the blood covering the ground, and the destroyed houses. Her lips started trembling. It took her a long time before she finally turned back to look at me. "Have you been out here all by yourself, this whole time?" I nodded. He looked at me, his eyes welling up instantly. "Child, what is your name?" I don't know why, but seeing his teary eyes, my heart softened, and even though it was my very first time seeing him, I felt this deep, familiar warmth from him. So, for the very first time, I opened my mouth and told him my name. He whispered it softly to himself, then asked, "Where are your parents?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I searched through everyone, but I couldn't find my mom and dad." His body trembled. After a long, heavy silence, he reached out and gently wiped the mud off my face. With a tender smile, just like my mother's, he looked at me and whispered, "Child, would you like to come home with me?" Thinking back to that moment, my heart still fills with warmth. If it hadn't been for Madame Sue, I probably would have starved to death back in the tribe. So, they didn't just raise me. They saved my life, and now that they've passed away, I have to get revenge. I stared at the state preceptor, my guard up. "What exactly are you trying to say?" The preceptor spoke slowly. "Many years ago, a remarkably talented man appeared in the Miao region. His name was Luo Yanxiao. He was a rare prodigy, the kind seen only once in a century. Not only could he command all beasts, but he could commune with nature itself. 20 years ago, he married the most beautiful woman in the Miao region, and they had a daughter. They named her Luo Shuang. That daughter, as you." Ah, I trembled violently. He was right. My dad's name really was Luo Yanxiao. When I was little, my mom would always call out to him, "Yanxiao, Yanxiao." So I remembered. The preceptor continued, "Luo Yanxiao possessed extraordinary gifts, but he had no desire for power. He just wanted to live a simple, quiet life. He never wanted to make enemies with the outside world, but he didn't realize that an innocent man can be targeted, simply for possessing a treasure. His unique ability to command the beasts drew the greed of countless people, and the one who coveted it the most was the man who was then the border general of Great Liang, Su Zhanshan." My eyes shot wide open, and my breath hitched. "You're lying. My adoptive father always cherished true talent. He was never a jealous man." The preceptor let out a faint chuckle. "You are right. Su Zhanshan did cherish talent, and he was not prone to jealousy. But you should know, the thing he cared about most in his entire life was his glorious reputation as the defender general of the state, and his absolute authority." I stared at the preceptor, completely speechless. I really couldn't deny that. My adoptive father spent his whole life on the battlefield. What he valued above all else was the Su family's honor and his supreme position in the military. So, even when he was completely tormented by agonizing pain from his old battle wounds, he never dared to step away from the front lines. But does that prove he was the butcher who massacred my people? Seeing my silence, the preceptor continued, "Su Zhanshan, desperate to steal your father's beast-taming secrets and secure his unshakable position as the defender general, pushed him into a corner. He even sent spies infiltrating the Miao region, using every dirty trick of coercion and bribery. Your father refused, and so he flew into a rage. 18 years ago today, he personally led his troops to slaughter the entire Miao clan. That night, the rivers ran red with our people's blood, corpses littered the plains, and every bit of this tragedy was single-handedly caused by your adoptive father, Su Zhanshan." I glared fiercely at the Grand Preceptor and demanded through gritted teeth, "Do you have proof?" The Grand Preceptor gave a faint smile. "Proof? Doesn't your adoptive father carry a dragon-carved jade pendant?" My heart skipped a beat. My adoptive father did indeed have a dragon jade pendant. It was purely emerald green, with exquisite carvings. He never took it off. I had asked him where he got it once, but he just said an old friend gave it to him, and refused to say more. Seeing the look on my face, the Grand Preceptor's smile widened. "That very pendant is the proof. It was a deeply personal item belonging to your biological father, Luo Yanxiao." Back then, Luo Yanxiao and Su Zhanshan had a fateful encounter. They shared a mutual respect for each other. Your father gifted him that personal pendant as a token of their sworn brotherhood. But Su Zhanshan immediately turned around and handed that pendant over to the vanguard general in charge of exterminating the Miao clan. Do you know why? I stared at him, unable to speak a word. He went on, "Because carved into that jade pendant by your father's own hands was the map to the secret passages of the Miao territory. It was a symbol of your father's ultimate trust, and the very key Su Zhanshan used to slaughter your entire clan." Hearing this, I swayed unsteadily on my feet. I had seen that pendant countless times. Every time my adoptive father polished it, his eyes held such a complicated look. I thought he was longing for a lost friend, but in reality, he was remembering his own unforgivable sins. The Grand Preceptor continued, "If you don't believe me, you can go and check the back of that pendant yourself. See if there is a cloud carved into it. That is the totem of your father, Yanxiao. I clenched my fists tightly. I didn't even need to look. I already knew that the back of that pendant was indeed engraved with a cloud. I had seen it 1,000 times. It was burned into my memory. The Grand Preceptor stared at my increasingly pale face. Did you really think Su Zhanshan treated you so well out of the kindness of his heart? You're dead wrong. It was purely out of guilt. He raised you because he desperately wanted to atone for his sins. He loved you because he was a coward with a guilty conscience. And that adoptive mother of yours, bringing you back from the Miao territory, was only because she knew exactly what Su Zhanshan had done, and she wanted to make amends. But what good is making amends? Your parents are dead, your people are dead, your entire Miao clan was wiped off the face of the earth. No matter how well they treated you, could it ever bring your parents back to life? My whole body began to tremble violently. Memories of my adoptive father's face kept flashing through my mind. The way he would personally cook for me. The way his eyes would go red as he'd say, "Such a perfectly sweet child. How did you get so terribly thin?" The way he'd gently stroke my head, vowing, "If anyone ever dares to bully you, I'll fight them to the death." And when I'd leave home to gather herbs, the way he'd wave goodbye, promising to wait for me to come home. Was all of that fake? All that deep love, all that tender care, was it really all just out of guilt? I didn't know. I didn't know who I could trust anymore. Seeing the sheer agony and conflict on my face, the Grand Preceptor took a step closer. He pressed on, "Aren't you even a little bit curious? How is it that Madame Su, a sheltered noblewoman, could just so happen to suddenly appear in Miaozhong, thousands of miles away?" My heart gave a violent lurch. I've actually wondered about this a lot. Having stayed by my adoptive mother's side for years, I noticed she stayed inside the Su manor year-round, hardly ever stepping out. As for long journeys, for a full 18 years, she never took a single one. So I was incredibly curious too. Why, 18 years ago, she would suddenly show up in Miaozhong, thousands of miles away, and just happen to save me. Was it really just a coincidence? Or was it entirely on purpose? The Imperial Preceptor watched my changing expression, and his smile grew deeper. That is because Madame Su was also a person of Miaozhong. She is your blood aunt, your mother's very own younger sister. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, completely frozen in place. Madame Su is my aunt? The Imperial Preceptor pressed on. Back then, she also loved your real father, Luo Yanxiao. But your father chose your mother. She was forced to leave the Miaozhong tribe, harboring bitter resentment. Later on, she met Su Zhanshan and married him, but she could never let go of that past in her heart. Her love twisted into hate. She told Su Zhanshan all about your father's extraordinary abilities, luring him into wiping out the entire Miaozhong tribe. He went to Miaozhong merely to confirm whether your parents had truly perished or not. He took you away, and kept you by his side just in case. If your parents had somehow survived, he could use you as leverage to threaten them. Hearing this, my entire body began to tremble violently. Impossible, that's impossible. Madame Su treated me like her very own daughter. She loved me dearly for 18 years. Right before she passed away, she even begged me to run, to stay alive. How could she possibly be that kind of person? But the Imperial Preceptor's words pierced my heart like a million needles. I didn't want to believe any of it, yet I couldn't help but question it. Why would someone locked away in a manor year-round, like Madame Su, just so happen to appear in Miaozhong, thousands of miles away? And those final words she spoke right before she died. When I found you in Miaozhong back then, Mother knew you were extraordinary. From this, it was clear that she absolutely knew my true identity all along. But did she and my adoptive father really wipe out my entire clan? I just don't know. I don't know who to believe anymore. Just as my doubts began to spiral, the Imperial Preceptor's tone suddenly softened. Su Luoshuang, I know this is extremely hard for you to accept, but this is the brutal truth. Su Zhanshan and his wife murdered your real parents, and slaughtered every last one of your people. Now that they are dead, they only got what they deserved. Why on earth must you make an enemy of the Emperor for their sake? Your incredible beast-taming abilities are the true, authentic heritage of Miaozhong. It is the precious treasure your father left behind for you. But right now, you have no idea how to truly use it. I raised my head and looked at him. He was right. Even though I can summon beasts, that is merely scratching the surface of its true power. My father could command all living things and truly commune with the beasts. Yet I can only manage this much. The Imperial Preceptor looked down at me. His eyes filled with deep admiration. Luo Shuang, I have trained for decades, and I have mastered all sorts of mystical arts. If you are willing to take me as your master, I will gladly teach you everything I know. I can help you carry on your father's legacy, and restore the glory of the Miao region. Not only that, I can also save your life. I stared at him coldly and said, why the hell should I trust you? The preceptor gave a calm smile. I know you have your doubts, but you simply have no choice. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean by that? The preceptor's lips curled into a smirk. Let me show you what true beast taming really looks like. With that, he suddenly raised his hand, and a flash of golden light shot out from his palm. It blasted straight out of the hall. Immediately after, the birds in the sky suddenly began to screech in unison. As if answering his call, they circled around, shifting into different formations, changing right along with the preceptor's hand gestures. Even down on the ground, a few of the fierce beasts that were under my control actually started getting restless. They looked like they wanted to bow down at his feet. My heart skipped a beat. This old geezer really does have some serious skills. The preceptor lowered his hand, and looked at me with pure arrogance. So, my beast taming arts, how do they compare to yours? I took a deep breath and lowered my head. I pale in comparison. The preceptor nodded in satisfaction. The only reason you dared to storm the royal palace, to seek revenge all by yourself, was because of these wild beasts backing you up. But my powers are far beyond yours. If you refuse to submit, I can wipe out your entire trump card in an instant. Then, you will be nothing more than a helpless, ordinary girl. Without any backup, the Emperor could kill you with a snap of his fingers. I kept my head down, softening my tone. Then, what do you suggest I do? Seeing that I was finally acting smart, the preceptor spoke in a relaxed tone. You are a smart girl. You should know that a wise person bends to the circumstances. As long as you agree to become my disciple, I promise you, not only will I save your life, but I will also help you surpass my own power within 3 years. When that time comes, you will not only inherit my legacy, but you will also be able to rebuild the Miao region, and bring ultimate glory to your family. I lifted my head, looking at him with absolute thrill on my face. Preceptor, are you really willing to teach me? The preceptor nodded. Of course. I hesitated for a second, then asked, but what about the Emperor? The Emperor immediately chimed in. Out of respect for the Imperial Preceptor, I am willing to let bygones be bygones, and let you live. I stayed silent for a moment, and finally nodded. All right, I accept your offer. Hearing this, the Preceptor was absolutely overjoyed. He hurried right up to me, reaching out to pat me on the shoulder. My good disciple. But before he could even finish his sentence, my hand was already moving. A cold flash of steel cut through the air. The venomous dagger hidden in my sleeve plunged straight into his stomach. The preceptor's smile instantly froze on his face. He looked down at the blade buried deep in his gut, and then slowly looked back up at me. His eyes were wide with disbelief. You, I stared at him, asking every single word in a low, cold voice. Tell me, where did you hide my real parents? The Grand Master trembled violently. What are you talking about? I glared dead at him. Stop acting. From the very moment you stepped into the throne room, I felt it. You carry the scent of my real parents on you. I had indeed sensed this from the start, but at the same time, I also knew that the Grand Master's power was far above mine. The only reason I pretended to surrender to you just now was to find an opening to deal a fatal blow. At this moment, the Grand Master's face turned deathly pale. He looked at me with absolute horror in his eyes. I continued, when I was 4 years old, my mother hid me inside a giant water vat. When she planted the GU bug inside me, she was already severely injured. Even now, I remember the exact aura of her wounds. The dark energy radiating from you is exactly the same. I've always wondered who slaughtered my entire Miao clan back then. It wasn't until you showed up that I realized, it was you. You were the one who wiped out my people. And you were the one who took my parents away. You coveted my father's powers. You wanted to steal his secret art of beast taming. You locked them up. You tortured them. You tried to force them to hand over their secrets. But it's been 18 years, and you still haven't gotten what you want, have you? The Grand Master clutched his stomach, stumbling backward. He stared at me, his eyes filled with pure terror. How did you know? I sneered, because you are just too stupid. If you hadn't mentioned that Madame Sue was my aunt, I might have actually believed you. But you just had to say it. The fact that my mother even had a sister was something not even I knew. So how on earth could you have known? The only explanation is that you tortured that information out of my parents. The Grand Master's face completely dropped. He scrambled backward, desperately trying to escape, but a fierce tiger from behind me had already pounced, sinking its teeth into his leg and dragging him hard to the ground. I walked right up to him, crouching down to look him in the eye. Grand Master, I am going to ask you one last time. Where are my parents? The Grand Master glared viciously at me, and then, he suddenly started laughing. It was a twisted, maniacal laugh. What a vicious little brat. I really underestimated you. Yes, you're right, your parents are indeed in my hands. But do you honestly think you can just swoop in and save them? I placed a deadly curse on them, and I am the only one who can break it. If you kill me, they will have nothing left to do but wait for death. I didn't say a word. Thinking I was terrified, the Grand Master laughed even more arrogantly. What's wrong? Scared now? If you know what's good for you, let me go immediately. Get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness. If I'm in a good mood, I might just spare your pathetic little life. I still didn't say a word. I simply raised my hand, gently placed it on top of his head, and closed my eyes. My people have a forbidden art, one that can read a person's memories. It requires immense talent and profound spiritual power. I had never used it before, but I had seen it in my father's secret manuals, and in this very moment, I wanted to give it a try. I tried the method from the secret manual, sending my consciousness deep into the Grand Preceptor's mind, searching through his memories, piece by piece. Soon, I saw it. A pitch-black dungeon. I saw two figures bound by heavy iron chains, saw their hollow, haggard faces, their frail, withered bodies. I saw my father. They were still alive. Tears instantly streamed down my face. I pulled my hand back, and opened my eyes. The Grand Preceptor lay crumpled on the ground, foaming at the mouth, his whole body twitching violently, forcibly tearing through his memories. Would cause irreversible brain damage, but he completely deserved it. I stood up and looked out of the Great Hall. I could feel it. My parents were trapped right here, in the palace's secret underground dungeon. I slowly turned my gaze to the Emperor. He was already paralyzed with fear, slumped on his dragon throne, shaking like a leaf. Noble Consort Lu was cowering right behind him, her face completely drained of color. The civil and military officials were all kneeling on the floor, absolutely terrified to even lift their heads. I left the majority of my beast companions behind, to stand guard over everyone in the court. Then, I turned and strode out of the grand hall. I walked right through the throne room, across the massive courtyard, passing through one palace gate after another. Finally, I arrived at the entrance of the underground sky prison. The place had been abandoned for years, utterly overgrown with wild weeds, and covered in thick spiderwebs. I stood right in the center of the prison block, closed my eyes, and tracked their familiar aura. Then, I opened my eyes and looked down at my feet. It was right here. Massive tigers behind me stepped forward in unison, using their razor-sharp claws to tear up the stone floor. They dug through layer after layer of rubble, until finally, a pitch-black entrance was revealed. I stepped inside. The dungeon went so deep, so incredibly dark and damp. The air was heavy with the sickening stench of rot. I followed the stone steps down, walking down into the dark. Finally, I saw a heavy set of iron doors. They were completely covered in sealing talismans. I raised my hand, ripped those vile talismans right off, and pushed the heavy iron doors open. They were nothing but skin and bones, their hair completely white, their faces deeply weathered, but I recognized them the second I saw them. It was my mom and dad. Hearing the noise, my mother struggled to lift her weary head. The moment she saw me, she froze. Then, tears just came pouring from her eyes. Shuang. Her voice was so hoarse and painfully weak, I could barely even hear it. But I heard her perfectly. I threw myself forward, dropping to my knees and pulling her into a tight embrace, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom, it's me. It's really me. My mother's hands were trembling violently as she reached up, gently cupping my face. Schwanger, my sweet Schwanger, you really are alive. My father was awake now, too. He just looked at me, tears streaming down his worn face. Schwanger, my precious daughter, how How on earth did you find us here? I just held onto them both, crying so hard I couldn't even speak. After a long time, I finally managed to pull myself together, and broke the heavy chains binding them. The moment I helped them out of the dungeon, out of the cold palace. The sunlight was so blinding they couldn't even open their eyes. It had been far too long since they last saw the sun. 18 years, a full 18 years. They had been locked away in a pitch-black underground cell. For 18 whole years, I supported them, step by step, as we walked back to the throne room. Inside the hall, the Emperor was paralyzed with fear, sweating bullets under the piercing gazes of the mighty lions. When he saw me walk in, holding onto two frail, skeleton-like elders, his eyes went wide. Who are these people? I completely ignored him. Instead, I crouched down and looked at the state preceptor lying on the floor. He was still alive, but his entire body was convulsing in pure agony. Foaming at the mouth, he didn't even have the strength left to scream. I stared down at him, enunciating every single word. Preceptor, you just claimed that my adoptive father slaughtered the Meow tribe. You said my adoptive mother's unrequited love turned into hate, and she betrayed my parents. Well, now, my real parents are standing right here. Do you dare repeat those lies to their faces? The preceptor's eyes rolled with agonizing effort. Looking toward my parents, suddenly, his pupils shrank in sheer terror. His lips began to tremble violently. My mother slowly walked up to him. Her voice was ice cold. Yuan Qingzi. 18 years. Wasn't locking my husband and me up for 18 years enough? Now you're trying to manipulate my daughter? My father furrowed his brows, his voice deep and stern. After all these years, you still never got what you wanted. Do you even know why? The preceptor opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Because what you practice is dark magic. You stole mere scraps of the Meow tribe's arts, and actually thought you were invincible. But what you didn't know is that the true art of beast taming requires a deep empathy with all living things, not forceful plunder. You kept me captive for 18 years. You tortured me for 18 years. Yet you will never obtain my true legacy. Because you simply don't deserve it. Tears of blood trickled down the preceptor's face. I couldn't tell if it was from the pain or the regret. My mother looked away from him and turned her gentle gaze to me. Schwanger, she said softly, your adoptive mother really is your aunt. She is my biological younger sister. And back then, she did have feelings for your father. I listened in silence, and my mother went on. But she never once tried to harm us. She left the Meow tribe because she didn't want to put me in a difficult position. She married your adoptive father because she truly loved him. And he came to our tribe because he sensed I was in terrible danger. He rushed all the way there to save me. But he was too late. By the time he arrived, Yuan Qingzi and his men had already massacred our people. He thought we were all dead. He only found you, so he took you away. He wanted to raise you in our stead, Schwanger. He didn't owe us anything. We are the ones who owe them. Hearing my mother's words, tears welled up in my eyes once again. I knew it. Madame Su was never my enemy. She really is my blood aunt. She genuinely loved me. My mother looked at me and gently added, your adoptive father did share a history with your real father, but that bond was absolutely genuine. They felt like they had known each other their whole lives, and even became sworn brothers. That jade pendant was truly given to him by your father's own hands. His kindness towards you all came from the bottom of his heart. Asking for absolutely nothing in return, I closed my eyes. I know, mother, I know. My adoptive parents were incredibly good people. I just knew it. Their kindness towards me was completely real. My mother smiled. She held me tight and whispered, my sweet child, your aunt raised you so beautifully. I gently let go of my mother and turned to look at the Emperor. Meeting my icy gaze, the Emperor shuddered violently, slipping right off his dragon throne. The grand ruler of a nation, now cowering like a stray dog. I walked right up to him and looked down. Your Majesty, do you remember? You once swore to the heavens that you would treat my sister well, that you would keep the Su family safe forever. But you broke your promise. Tell me, shouldn't you pay the price? Hearing this, the Emperor trembled uncontrollably. What are you trying to do? I am the Emperor. I crouched down, staring right into his eyes. Don't you worry, Your Majesty. I won't let you meet your end that easily. I am going to make you taste the exact same suffering my sister went through, bit by bit. I stood up and waved my hand. Several fierce tigers lunged forward, sinking their teeth into him as they dragged him away. The emperor's agonizing screams echoed into the sky. Consort Lu shrieked, desperately trying to run away. But a massive black bear swatted her hard to the ground. I glared at her coldly. When you forced my sister to dance on burning coals, did you ever think this day would come? Consort Lu's face was drenched in tears as she shook her head frantically. No, it wasn't me. The emperor made me do it. I gave a slow nod. I know, but just like him, you must also pay the price. The moment I said that, another fierce tiger pounced and dragged her away. 2 hours later, my parents and I walked slowly, the three of us each carrying a severed head. The imperial advisors, the emperors, and consort Lu's. I knelt down in front of the graves, and placed the three heads in a neat row right before the tombstones of my adoptive parents and my sister. My parents stood quietly behind me, not saying a word. Auntie, uncle, sister, the head of that dog emperor. I brought it here for you. My mother then knelt before my aunt's grave, choking back her tears. Sister, thank you so much for taking care of Luo Shuang all these years. If there is a next life, I would give absolutely everything to repay your kindness. My father knelt down in front of my adoptive father's grave as well. When we first met all those years ago, we drank and laughed together, and became sworn brothers. You gifted me a suit of armor, and I gave you that jade pendant. Our brotherhood was completely genuine. I, Luo Yanxiao, will never in this lifetime forget the immense kindness you showed us. The three of us spoke at their graves for a very, very long time before we finally left. After walking quite a distance, I turned my head to look back one last time. Beneath the setting sun, the three graves stood there peacefully. The severed heads we left behind had already been dragged away by wild dogs, leaving only three tombstones shimmering softly in the fading light. I slowly looked away, looking ahead. That way lies Shangjing. There's still a hard battle to fight over there. After all, the emperor is dead, the royal court is in total chaos, and the people are panicking. I have to go back and clean up this mess. Not for anything else, but for the empire my foster father spent his entire life protecting. I can't let it be destroyed like this.